The 6th of May, 1945, Reims, France. A gray sky hangs low over a small schoolhouse that, on the surface, looks completely unremarkable. But inside those walls, something is happening that will decide how history remembers the end of the most devastating war the world has ever seen. Outside, armed military police stand in silence. No celebration, no victory cheers, just waiting. Inside, the air is heavy with cigarette smoke, tension, and exhaustion. Maps cover the walls. Phones ring and stop abruptly. Men who have commanded armies across continents now sit in silence, checking watches that suddenly feel too slow. Everyone is waiting for one man. When the car finally arrives, it is almost underwhelming. No fanfare, no dramatic entrance. Just a door opening, boots on wet ground, and a man stepping out who carries himself like the war is still undecided. Colonel General Alfred Jodl. To the Allied officers watching from the windows, he looks almost theatrical. Perfect uniform, iron cross, controlled posture. A man still clinging to the idea that rank, discipline, and pride still matter in a world that has already moved past him. But Jodl does not see himself as defeated. Not yet. In his mind, he is not walking into surrender. He is walking into negotiation. And that illusion will not survive the next few hours. Inside, General Dwight D. Eisenhower is informed that Jodl has arrived. The expectation is simple: meeting, handshake, formalities, documents, signatures. A military conclusion to a military conflict. But Eisenhower doesn't move. He listens. Then he gives a quiet instruction that changes everything. He will not meet him. He will not speak to him. He will not shake his hand. Jodl is not coming to negotiate with equals. He is coming to sign an ending that has already been decided. And so, without realizing it, Jodl's first battle of the day is already lost. He is left waiting. Hours pass inside that schoolhouse. Not the kind of waiting that comes with diplomacy, but the kind that breaks confidence. Doors open and close. Officers walk past him without stopping. Conversations happen around him, not with him. He is present, but not acknowledged. The message is subtle, but unmistakable. He is not part of the discussion. He is the subject of it. While Jodl waits, the reality outside Germany has already collapsed. Adolf Hitler is dead, having taken his own life days earlier in his bunker. The Nazi regime, once built on the illusion of control and destiny, is now fragmenting into confusion. But instead of surrendering fully, the remaining leadership attempts one last strategy. Karl Dönitz, now claiming authority over what remains of the German state, believes there is still a way to shape defeat into something survivable. His idea is not peace, it is division. Surrender to the West, continue resistance in the East, and exploit the growing tension between the Allied powers and the Soviet Union. It is a desperate plan, built on denial. And Jodl has been sent to turn that fantasy into reality. Before Jodl arrives, another German officer is brought in as a preliminary step. Admiral Hans-Georg von Friedeburg arrives, expecting diplomacy. Instead, he finds something colder. A room filled with silence and maps that show the German army shrinking from existence. General Bedell Smith, Eisenhower's chief of staff, meets him without ceremony. There is no negotiation tone in his voice, no softness, no ambiguity. Unconditional surrender on all fronts, east and west, simultaneously. Friedeburg tries to argue. He speaks of chaos on the Eastern Front, of fear, of uncontrollable troops. He tries to suggest partial arrangements, phased withdrawals, anything that preserves structure. But every sentence collapses against reality. There is no structure left to preserve. When he is finally told to communicate the terms back to his leadership, something inside him breaks. He is not negotiating anymore. He is carrying the message of collapse. And when he leaves, he is no longer confident in what he is representing. Now, Jodl arrives. He is different. Where Friedeberg hesitated, Jodl insists. Where others doubted, Jodl performs certainty. He walks into the building expecting to be treated as a military equal, still believing that rank carries meaning in this room. He asks immediately to see Eisenhower. The answer is simple. No. He will deal with General Smith. For the first time, irritation cuts through his composure. He is a colonel general of the German armed forces. In any system he understands, this should not happen. He demands again. The answer does not change. Eisenhower will not meet him. And with that refusal, something larger than protocol is established. This is not a meeting between two sides. It is a controlled conclusion of a defeated system. Jodl sits down at the table. The surface in front of him is plain, almost insultingly ordinary. No grand treaty desk, no symbolic decoration, just a functional space for a document that will end everything. He tries to regain control through language. He speaks of the Eastern Front, of the inability to guarantee Soviet compliance, of the risk of uncontrolled collapse if German troops are forced into immediate surrender everywhere at once. He proposes delay, a window of time, 48 hours, controlled withdrawal, orderly transition. But what he is really proposing is illusion. Time is the only currency he still believes he can spend. Bedell Smith listens without emotion. Then the answer comes back, sharp and final. No delays, no phases, no conditions. Unconditional surrender. Jodl tries again, insisting that communication with Eastern units is complex, that orders may not be followed, that chaos is inevitable. This time, the response changes tone. If Germany refuses to comply, Allied lines will close completely. No movement, no passage, no exceptions. Unquote. End quote. And then the final layer is added. Refugees will not be allowed through. The implication lands immediately. This is no longer just military pressure. It is total containment. Soldiers trapped between advancing Soviet forces and sealed Allied lines. Civilians caught in the middle of a collapsing state with nowhere to go. For the first time, Jodl is forced to confront something beyond strategy. Consequences. Not for armies, for people. The room falls into a different kind of silence. Not tactical silence, but psychological collapse. The space between negotiation and reality disappears. Jodl requests time to communicate with Dönitz. The request is granted. A message is sent. It is brief, stripped of illusion. Immediate, unconditional surrender demanded. No alternatives, no delay. Hours pass. In that time, nothing moves except tension. Then the reply arrives. Authorization granted. At 2:41 inches the morning, the final act begins. Photographers enter the room. Lights are set. Papers are placed on the table. The atmosphere shifts from military tension to historical permanence. Everyone present understands that what is about to happen will be recorded forever. Jodl sits down. Across from him are Allied representatives, not enemies in the traditional sense anymore, something closer to witnesses. The document is placed in front of him. It is short, direct, uncompromising. He reads it. There is no ambiguity left. Unconditional surrender of all German forces on all fronts. For a moment, he hesitates. Not because he does not understand, but because understanding has finally arrived too late to change anything. Then he signs. Alfred Jodl. One signature. And with it, a war that consumed continents, destroyed cities, and killed tens of millions of people is reduced to ink on paper. When he finishes, he does not sit back immediately. He remains still, as if expecting something to change. As if the act of signing might trigger a reversal, a correction, some final intervention that restores meaning to what he thought he was doing. Instead, nothing happens. So he stands, and he speaks. He tries to frame what has just occurred as shared suffering. He speaks of sacrifice, of endurance, of nations paying a price. He avoids names, avoids responsibility, avoids everything that led to this moment. No one responds. No one agrees. No one validates. His words disappear into a room that has already moved past him. When he leaves the table, he believes the process is complete. But he is wrong, because the final act of humiliation has not happened yet. He is told that Eisenhower will now see him. For a brief moment, expectation returns, not confidence, but habit. The habit of believing that rank still creates respect. He enters Eisenhower's office. Eisenhower is standing behind his desk. There is no warmth in the room, no ceremony, no acknowledgement of shared profession, and most importantly, no handshake. That absence says everything. In Jodel's world, a handshake is recognition, equality, mutual respect between soldiers. In this room, there is none of that left. Eisenhower speaks first. His voice is controlled, distant, absolute. The terms are confirmed. The surrender is total. Any violation will be met with force. Jodl responds automatically, yes. And then silence. Eisenhower looks at him for a long moment, as if evaluating something that no longer has military value. Then he dismisses him. Just like that. No ceremony, no closure, just removal. Jodl leaves the room without another word. Outside, the war is officially over, but the emotional weight of it is only beginning to settle. In the hours that follow, celebration begins to break through in other parts of the Allied command. Bottles are opened, hands are shaken, exhaustion turns into relief. Men who have lived under constant pressure for years finally allow themselves to breathe. Eisenhower, however, does something different. He writes a message to announce the end of the war. Drafts are suggested, long sentences, formal language, historical tone. He rejects all of it. Then he writes 5 words. The mission of this Allied force is fulfilled. Nothing more, because nothing more is needed. In the aftermath, the people involved in the surrender carried different endings. Friedeberg, overwhelmed by despair, later takes his own life. Jodl is arrested, tried at Nuremberg, and sentenced for his role in the war. He is executed in 1946. Dönitz is imprisoned. Eisenhower goes on to become President of the United States. But the most lasting impact is not political. It is symbolic. The surrender at Reims did not just end a war. It defined how the world would interpret responsibility. It drew a line between military defeat and moral judgment. And at the center of it all was a moment of silence. A refusal to shake a hand. A refusal to treat power without humanity as equal. And in that refusal, history made its final decision. Not with noise, but with silence.